From Cali to Tally, it's time to wake up. WarChant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source, and this is Wake Up War Chant. Now here's WarChant.com's Aslan Hudjavandi and Corey Clark.
Wake up! What's up, everybody? We're here, Corey and myself. We're actually on the scene at the Civic Center still. It is literally Wednesday morning. This isn't me speaking like in present tense. It is Wednesday morning now. Florida State 81-60 win over Florida. That's a basketball score. Hopefully, Florida could Florida put 60 points up on Harlan Barnett's defense in a few weeks, Corey?
I mean, maybe in 12 quarters. Maybe. Yeah, Felipe Franks is just going to light them up.
I think they're done with Felipe Franks. They made that Trask kid going for a few series.
All right.
So.
Well, that kid wasn't good enough to beat out Felipe Franks for 9 weeks, so I can't imagine he's great either.
Well, either was James Blackman. But we'll get to that.
Well, hey, you know what? We'll get to that.
We'll
get to the quarterback
We're
stuff.
a basketball school now. Florida State, again, 81-60 win over Florida. I was busy watching the future of our democracy in action, looking at how election night shook out, so I had to miss some of the first half. Made it here towards the I got here for most of the second half. That was a performance, man. That was super cool to see, I think, man.
Yeah, that's 5 in a row over Florida, which is nuts because there have been some good Florida teams in that span, and none of them have been like that. I mean, that was 35 points. It reminded me, I actually brought this up to Ira during the game, it reminded me of the Andrew Wiggins game. Remember when Florida came here and just pummeled Florida State when Andrew Wiggins was on his recruiting visit?
Okay. Right.
That was a really good Florida team with some really it was a senior-laden team, and Florida State was young. It was Michael Snare and Ian Miller and a bunch of people that didn't play a lot before that season, and they got they were down by 25 in the first half. I think it was just an utter demolition, and that's what this was. I mean, Florida didn't look like they belonged on the floor with Florida State. Now, part of that is because Florida State is very experienced. They have a lot of guys that played in the Elite Eight. They were at home, and Florida's pretty young. A lot of their best players are really young, including their point guard who had never played a college basketball game before. And when you've never played a college basketball game before, no matter how good you are, and that guy's going to be in the NBA in a year, starting off against Trent Forrest isn't fun. He's a 6'5" guy. He's long. He's athletic. You don't get to do much against him when he's guarding you. And I'm telling you, folks, man, I can't believe what M.J. Walker looked like. I mean, to me, he looks as long and as athletic as Trent Forrest. And when you have those two guys out there on the perimeter, man, that's a tough deal. He's lost weight. He's in great condition. And I was floored by how good he was. Like the guy he was guarding, every time the guy tried to shoot, he was challenging him. I mean, it was just great defense. He's a really good defensive player now, or certainly he was on Tuesday night. So you look moving forward, man. Looking forward, I don't necessarily know that Florida State's this good, and I don't think Florida's this bad. But on one night, it was a rout. I mean, they were up by 35 points.
35's a big number.
And Mike White came in there after the game and said at least a couple times, I'm shell-shocked. Mm-hmm. I don't think he's shell-shocked that Florida State's good. I think he was shell-shocked by how his team just wilted under that pressure. And they did. They wilted. They did not play well at all on offense. Florida State had a lot to do with that. And he said that he thinks this is probably the way they communicate, the way they're connected. He thinks this is the best Florida State team he's played defensively.
I thought that was a Leonard Hamilton term, connectivity.
Yeah, connectivity.
But
maybe it's sweeping the college basketball circles.
Yeah, man. I thought somebody on War Chant was funny. They said, man, Ham's just hitting his peak right now at age 70. Some of us, just right now. He's
and
peaking out.
That really should be a lesson to people. And I know they're not even comparable at all as far as how long they've been here.
Oh, don't go down this road.
But 2 years ago, my man had Malik Beasley and Dwayne Bacon and XRM and didn't make the tournament. And people were just throwing stuff at the wall, telling me I'm an idiot, that he should be fired. Fire Ham. This is ridiculous.
You got two guys that we thought were one and dones, and then a talented guy like XRM.
And they hit a lull in that season and then didn't make the tournament. And people were right to be angry about that. But my point back then was, look, number one, I didn't think all of them were going. I didn't even think Beasley was going. I'm like, you have Beasley and Bacon. If you fire Hamilton now, they're definitely gone, and you also lose John Isaac. Is that really what you want for the program? I just think it's weird how right when it feels like the fan base is about to just be done with Leonard Hamilton, He went 6 years without making the tournament. A lot of extenuating circumstances, but the results are the results. He didn't get there. Right when it looks like they're about done with him, okay, now he's going to go to the tournament 4 years in a row and win an ACC championship. Then he does it again, a 4-year stretch where they don't go, including one with Beasley and Bacon and XRM, who turned out to be a pseudo-NBA player, and they don't make the tournament. And then all of a sudden again, okay, they win 26 games. Then they get to the Elite Eight, and now they're beating Florida by 21 points when Mike White said it could have been a 41-point game. Again, I don't think this doesn't necessarily mean Florida State's a great team or even a top 10 team, but, man, if they play like that defensively, they're a bear. And he's got that. I thought what was really interesting after the game was how Mike White talked about the culture. He said the culture was in a really good place here at Florida State. And that means something when another coach can see that in another coach's program.
He mentioned that his offense was selfish. They followed the selfish
They were
traps.
hunting shots.
Yeah.
And,
you
look at –
praise Florida State's culture.
Because they don't. It really is pretty remarkable. And it goes back to the John Isaac year, where that guy is one of the most talented players ever to come through here, maybe the most talented besides Dave Cowens. And that guy would shoot 4 times a game. And I think that even the Isaac effect, like a lot of these guys played with John Isaac. And if that dude's not hunting shots, if that dude's completely selfless, and I mean, there's a picture, and I'll always remember it when I think of John Isaac, whether he has a great NBA career or not. I think it was Miami, and I don't think he hit a shot from the floor. I think he scored 2 points in the game. And late in the game, Bacon hits an and one to put the game away. And there's a picture of Isaac on the other end of the court just going crazy, just so excited. And it's like, dude, that's the stuff you need in a basketball program. When you talk about culture, even though it was a year, you can't tell me that didn't rub off on Trent Forrest and Terrence Mann. Seeing a kid that talented, that was going to be a millionaire in a month, and he cared that much about his teammate scoring an and one. And I think you see the effects of that. I always want to call him Christ. I mean, it's spelled that way.
Christ's
I
sakes,
get it.
Come on, Corey.
Chris Kumaji led the team in shots with 8. You know what I mean? Like that
4
should,
of 8, 50%.
Well, sure. But it's probably maybe
high percentage shots.
Sure. I feel like going forward, maybe that won't be the case. But either way, you look at that. There's nobody that shot more than 8 times. Yeah. That
11
speaks,
guys scored. 11 different guys.
But I do really think, and it's the first game, so we'll see what it's like in January. But right now, it looks like it's the same as last year and the year before when they all had the bench mob. They really do seem like a really selfless bunch.
Yeah. And PJ Savoy's hitting 3-pointers. That was nice to see. 5 to 7 from
3J, as I like to call
3J. Very nice.
By the way, again, you don't know. Well, you were here last year.
Yeah, towards the tail end of it. I got here in like February.
I'm serious, man. If PJ Savoy could have walked into any bar I was at, and people, just so you know, I'm at bars all the time. You go to a bar in Tallahassee, old daddy's going to be at the corner stool asking for another. I don't know why I said bar. That was weird. I don't really frequent bars that much, but he could have walked into any establishment I was at, came up and said, "Hey, man, how you doing?" I wouldn't recognize that it was PJ Savoy. He just looks completely different.
In a good way, like
He slimmed down. He was, a little bit pudgy, you'd say. I think he played 27 minutes in that game. I'm going to guess that's a career high for him because Leonard never thought he could play him that much because of he was kind of slow-footed and he wasn't real athletic and he didn't play defense real well. If he can be this guy that can give them 20 to 25 minutes a night with the way he shoots, man, with him and MJ Walker, they just look like different guys. It could be a pretty fun team to watch, and they did it without their leading scorer.
Yeah, Phil Kofer. Is MJ Walker, is he different because of his haircut, or do you think physically he looks different as well?
Well, both. Him and Trent Forrest, by the way, have the same exact haircut, and it's, I didn't recognize either one of them at first. I was going to ask MJ, but I don't know if he's the kind of kid that would, like, joke around about his hair. Right. Some kids are like that. I guess I can joke around about hair, but no, he looks different physically. By the way, and this is true, the last time Florida State lost to Florida in either football or basketball, I had hair.
You still rocking hair back in 12?
Well, I had the ring. Does that count? I
can't imagine you with the ring.
I had it. What I did was I used clippers and shaved it, kind of clipped it.
Yeah.
But it was still little hairs there, and I had the ring, the big heavy ring on the back of my head.
Yeah.
It was a rough look.
Yeah.
I feel bad for Shanna. I feel like she missed out on what Corey Clark has to offer now.
I'll be able to project.
God bless her. She was a good wife. She was a good wife. She's a great ex-wife. But I feel like she really missed out. That whatever that was, about 10 to 2010 to 2015, those were rough days. I go back and look at some of those pictures with Brady. It's like, oh, boy, wow. I don't understand why she didn't tell me to shave it all off.
It's called love. Look it up sometime. All right, so 3 guys finish in double figures. Trent Forrest with 13, PJ Savoy with a game-high 20, and then again MJ Walker with 10 points. Dude, Raekwon Gray was kind of cool to watch. He had 13 minutes out there. He's a big load, man, but moves swift. He's another guy that could possibly emerge and be another fun piece of the bench mob, if you will.
Yeah, he looks like a guy that he just plays like a guy that must hit a growth spurt later on in his life because he plays like a point guard.
Yeah.
Like, he wants the ball in his hands. He can handle it. He likes to pass. He likes to move. Now he's still too big for that. Like, he can get. I think he can make some moves and get by the initial defender, but right now his body isn't going to be able for him to like explode over that next defender or get around him. But again, I don't think he's going to play a whole lot this year when Kofor comes back. I can't see a whole lot of minutes for him. But he's a nice little piece, man. He's a nice little piece off the bench. I think the Vassell kid has a chance to be really good in a year or two. You've got a core, though, when you throw Kofor back into it. With Forrest, Mann, and Terrence Mann is Terrence Mann, man. You know what you're going to get out of him.
9-9.
Yeah, and sometimes he'll be 18 and 12, but he's always going to guard pretty well. And you know what you got with Kumaji. He needs to stay healthy. That's a big deal. And I think one thing that people watching this game, David Nichols is going to be better than he was tonight. He's the transfer from Albany. Sorry, tonight. Yeah, Tuesday night. He's a transfer from Albany. He did not play well at all, but he's going to be a nice piece for them. He's another good shooter. So they got Savoy and Walker who are really good shooters. Yep. And I think David Nichols will be that third guy, along with Kofor, who was their leading three-point shooter a year ago.
College football playoff has been updated. Core, good news. FSU is actually ranked in the college football playoff, 23rd.
Oh, that's surprising.
Fresno State.
Oh, that one. Okay.
Fresno State is 23rd.
Ain't played nobody, though.
Yeah. So Michigan's 4th.
What would their record be if they had to play Syracuse and NC State?
Dude, Syracuse is 13th.
How crazy. When I tell you, folks, that this is the worst college football season that I can remember, Syracuse being 13th is proof positive of that. Are you kidding me?
Florida is 15th.
And that, too. That's crazy. And it's like you look at that and go.
LSU 7th. They have 2 losses. They're number 17.
Yeah, and you look at those rankings and go, that's preposterous. LSU should not be 7th. Florida should not be 15th. Syracuse should not be 13th. Well, who are you going to put there?
Like you said the other day, you got to rank
nobody
somebody.
Left.
Oh, my God.
Miami?
Crazy.
You know what I mean? Like there's nobody left to put there. So.
Auburn's 6-3. They're ranked 24th. They're going to get probably hammered by Georgia. They just gave a false, not a false, but they gave a vote of confidence to Gus Malzahn on Tuesday, right before the Deep South's oldest rivalry. Do you care about that game at all? I feel like there should be some. It's the Deep South's oldest rivalry.
Oh, I don't care about that. It's the Deep South's oldest rivalry, but yeah,
Georgia and Auburn.
You always want Georgia to beat Auburn. It's weird that that's always going to be there. Like Georgia always has to play Auburn every year because it's such a it's I guess
they're the rotational. It's like Miami, Florida State. Like
I still think Georgia fans, it's number 3 on their list, behind Tech and Florida as far as rivals. I think Florida
Tech is number 1 above those.
I would say it's much worse for Georgia fans to lose to Georgia Tech than it is to lose to Auburn.
Okay.
But those are their 3 rivals, and I would rank them. I mean, you could flip-flop Florida and Georgia Tech, but I think those are 1 and 2, and then Auburn's 3.
Yeah. All right, folks, get involved in the show. Leave your questions on the Tribal Council on warchant.com. Use the promo code WARCHANT for WARCHANT30 for 30 free days of access. Also, give us a call, 850-792-5730 for the phone call Friday. We might do that Thursday. We don't know what we're going to actually do.
Hey, can I make one? Are we about to go to break?
Yes, we are.
I was going to say one thing. I don't know if Ira put it up on the site or not, but he tweeted it from the War Chant account. Please help me with her last name.
Maura Binkley.
Maura Binkley. Her father, Jeff, spoke at halftime of the game. She was one of the 2 women that were shot and killed at the hot yoga studio on Friday night. We haven't really talked about that, and we're not going to talk about it much, but it was a really kind of touching moment. It really was. Like, he spoke, and then the crowd, he goes, her voice is here tonight. Don't be silent any longer. Let's hear it for Maura. And the crowd gave the loudest ovation they gave of the night. And even somebody tweeted at me that even in the section where, and then they did the chop and the War Chant, and even the Florida fans were doing it for her. Yeah. And somebody tweeted that to me, and that's just, again, it's an unimaginable tragedy. 21 years old, it's just awful. but it was a nice kind of glimmer of light in a dark time for that family. I remember when my dad died, and at the end of I gave the eulogy, and then at the end of the funeral or the ceremony, I said, look, my dad was a huge sports fan, so I know this isn't normal, but instead of being quiet when we walk out of here, how about a round of applause for a life well lived? And he got a standing ovation. Like everybody, there was 100, 200 people there, and they all stood up and cheered. And it's one little moment. It didn't bring him back. She's not coming back. There's going to be a lot of pain in that family's life for a long time, till the end of their life. I can't even imagine losing a child. But I think that moment, even though it was about a minute and a half, was really touching. And I think will stay with them. And that was the neatest thing to me. Even obviously, I'm not even trying to be callous here. It's so much more important and so much neater than a basketball win. That was a really neat moment, and I'm glad they did it.
Yeah, awesome. Well said, Corey. That was an amazing moment, man. Let's step aside and let's come back and try to talk about sports. We'll do that. Let's Wake Up War Chant.
You're listening to Wake Up War Chant, all Noles, every day. Now back to Corey and Aslan.
Welcome back. All right, we got the basketball stuff out of the way. Back now in the Midtown offices. Corey, we mentioned the quarterbacks at the beginning of the first segment, but, had to focus on the hoops. Scale of 1 to 10. I guess how surprised were you that DeAndre Francois let us know that he's still the number one quarterback and tends to start?
How surprised am I that he did that?
Well, no, that's a two-part.
It's about a 2 on a 1 to 10, a surprise scale. Yeah.
With 10 being shocked.
10 would be shocked, yes. Okay,
well then how surprised are you that if that's the case?
Again, on a 1 to 10 scale, I'd say maybe a 5, a 4 or a 5. It's not anything that's,
I thought you said you'd be shocked the other day on the program, or maybe in your column. You're like, I'd be surprised.
I'd be surprised. But that's what I'm saying about a 4 or 5. I'm not stunned because he was the starting quarterback. He did get injured, and I even said, Willie might be one of those guys that if you don't lose your job by injury. And we do need to keep in mind, although our eyes tell us the truth, man. Our eyes tell us that offense hasn't looked like that. My man throws it up to 15, and people can roll their eyes and shrug and say, Corey, get off it. Man, he throws it up to the dude, and that's why they move the ball a lot. DeAndre Francois, for whatever reason, doesn't. So just with that in mind, I would say, man, and also he can move a little bit better. He hit some throws down the middle of the field. He just looked better. The interception he had was the guy, what was he doing there? I get it. I get that play.
Walt tipped his cap to them. Sounded like he said they schemed something up good for him.
He didn't even look at him, and I think a lot of quarterbacks would have gotten duped by that. And with that offensive line, you got to get rid of the ball. So, but if you've thought for 8 weeks that DeAndre Francois gives you the best chance to win, then lighting up a bad secondary and still losing by 20 points might not be enough in Willie Taggart's minds to tip the scales to Blackman.
Yeah.
I think he should. I think it was kind of obvious just watching the first 8 games and then watching that game against NC State that it moves a little differently. But again, it was also against a bad secondary. And, he ain't going to be moving the ball like that on Saturday night, either one of them. Chris Winkie could be back there. It's not going to matter on Saturday night. They're not going to be moving the ball a lot.
And that blizzard, that potential.
Yeah,
blizzard.
The blizzard, the cold temps with a bad offense. Not the best combination in the world.
By the way, usually just use this part of the microphone and then curve it there instead of actually touch. Don't touch the actual. Yeah,
talking about that.
There you go. Ooh,
you like that? Hey everyone, you like that? This is Wake Up War Chant After Dark.
Ooh, don't make eye contact right now. Getting kind of awkward. I think Ira said as much, and you folks will see on the War Chant report later on Wednesday, and he said it even in the thread where we made the announcement on the message boards that DeAndre had said it, that there's belief that the family is involved in this, like the Team Blackman, the actual family, not the band of posters, but like Blackman's folks, his family, maybe want to do what they can to preserve his red shirt. So that's a kind of an awkward thing because it's like, where do you fall on that? Should he be a team player and do what's best for the team and for the coaches, or should he be able to look out what's best for himself?
Yeah.
And to a certain point, part of me is, if I'm that family, and again, I don't know, and Ira and I were kind of talking about this after they taped War Chant Report of, listen, man, that's a whole nother year of football and education that he's able to have if you redshirt him. My whole thing is, even if he does play and burns through another year of eligibility this year, he still has all of 19, all of 20, then he can go pro. I mean, I would figure, I don't know how pivotal a third year for him would be, to get bigger and better. I don't want to rob him and strip him of that. I don't think that's fair on my part, but I would feel if he's as good as he thinks he is, and his family probably believes that he is, then 2 more years he'll be good. The only thing I would say in their defense is kind of a little bit vindictive and maybe petty, and I don't think they're thinking like this, but I could see myself thinking like this if it was my son, that, hey, man, like, you had your chance. You could have started my son at the beginning of this year and seen what would happen, and I'm not going to – I don't think it's fair for you to take a year away from my kid, for you to slop up three last games because you thought that this other guy gave you a better chance. Like, I don't.
Yeah, I don't think as a head coach you can start letting families dictate your depth chart. If they think James Blackman gives them the best chance to win, then James Blackman should be playing. It's potentially 4 games, and again, this is all speculation, but if a family went to Willie Taggart and said, hey, we don't want our son to play these last 3 or 4 games, well, what if Francois sprains his ankle in the first quarter against Notre Dame? You're going to throw a walk-on out there for the rest of the season?
Yeah.
So you can maybe start there's no guarantee James Blackman will ever start at Florida State or anywhere else for that matter. So it just doesn't make it, to me, that line of thinking doesn't make sense. Also, man, I'm sorry, but you've got 40 years of football players and coaches that have come through this program that are pretty proud of a bowl streak. In James Blackman's family is going to say,
and we don't know for sure.
Exactly.
So
but I also, not even James Blackman's
obviously.
family. Maybe it's just they want to preserve a red shirt. Willie's being a nice guy, or James asked him. Man, I'm sorry that it's not like it's just 1 game. It could be 4 games.
Yeah.
I mean, I would never burn a kid's red shirt for 1 last game. But then, if that was ever an option, why in the world was he in the game against Wake Forest?
Yeah.
Why in the world was he in the game against Clemson, quite frankly? You could have thrown a walk-on in there at the end of that game. It was 59-3.
And everyone got upset about that. And they were, what's DeAndre still doing in that game? I never had any problem with him still being in that game. There was no point to pull him again. I don't think you're –
Right. So I guess, I just think, it might just be as simple as, number one, it might be as simple as DeAndre Francois just assuming. Maybe Willie Taggart didn't tell him that.
He said that coach spoke to us, so that's still my job. And
he said it in a weird way that he made it clear that he didn't say.
Did you
that,
listen? We need to almost play the whole interview in this show. I feel like maybe we should pause and play it right now.
No, we don't need that. We people would rather hear us talk, right, than the starting quarterback.
Last week, I just was focused on getting back out, focusing on my concussion. But I feel great now. But I feel like me and James, we just support each other. And that all started last year when I got hurt and he had to take over. I was just supportive of him each and every game. So, I'm still the number 1 guy. Coach Taggart continues to make that clear. James understands that, but James is always ready to go. If anything happens to me, God forbid.
So, it might be as simple as they think DeAndre Francois is better. I don't even think that's a thing. They do. That's why he's played the first 8 games. So, Blackman had a good game. It was against a bad secondary. Okay. They still lost by 20 points. Maybe you just think Francois is better, and you're going to go back to the guy that's started the first 8 games. I don't think it's smart because I think you got to try to prepare for 2019. And I don't think you can just shrug your shoulders and say, I don't want to burn a kid's red shirt thinking about the future. Well, you better, man. You better figure out your quarterback position. It's going to be a lot like this again in 19. So know what you have. It just –
what's the likelihood that he redshirts this year and then plays 19, 20, and 21? And
Zero. Do you want James? I don't think anybody's really of the opinion that this guy is going to lead them to the promised land anyway. He can't move well enough. He can move better than Francois, but then so can I. That's not saying a whole lot. They need a kid in here that's mobile, that can make plays with his legs. That's apparently how this offense has to run. At least be a threat with it. And so –
but you pointed out Oregon last year. Neither quarterbacks ran for that many yards, and they still had.
But they had big rushing plays. Like I looked it up because I think through 8 games last year, their quarterbacks ran for 15 first downs and 6 touchdowns. Yeah. Francois was 2-2. That's a huge difference. Yeah. That's 400%. Like you don't need a guy running for 40 first downs, but you need a guy moving chains at least a couple times a game, which is what those quarterbacks did. They also got sacked a good bit, so that hurt their rushing yardage total. But they weren't Quentin Flowers, but they still could move a little bit. I don't know that either one of these guys can do it well enough, and I think I don't know, man. I just think Willie Taggart needs to be thinking solely about the next 3 games. What's best for his team over the next 3 games? And then, because I think you need to try to extend that bowl streak. I think you got to do everything you can to try to extend that bowl streak. And also, along the way, all right, man, maybe we figure out who the best quarterback is. Who we figure out the best. I know I just spoke out of both sides of my mouth because I said you need to think about 19 too. I think you need to know going into 19 if James Blackman can be a quarterback for you.
I think you didn't see enough just last weekend that makes you think, okay, that's something to really build off of.
So, yeah, I did, but did he? It wouldn't appear.
Eyes don't lie. We all see the same thing. That's where there's other, I don't want to say politics, but there's other dynamics in play that we're not privy to. Or
I will say this, though. One thing that I hope doesn't get lost in this, and I hope it doesn't make Willie second-guess some things, it's actually really cool that the media got to speak to both guys.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a really neat thing.
A little inside media right here.
Yeah, and so the fact that one of them went out and said something that you probably didn't want him to say, probably. I mean, I don't know. Maybe, I hope that doesn't mean from now on he's going to pull back and say, no, they're off limits because this created too much controversy. Sometime maybe you would have hoped that DeAndre Francois would have just said, look, I expect to start because I was the starter, but any decision the coach makes is fine with me. I want the best player to play. I want the best chance for our team to win. Didn't really kind of come off like that.
Not at all, man. The whole thing was just, oh, man. I played it. I went into post-production, put it in there. But I don't want to say he was digging himself a bigger hole, but there was like condescension in there towards James. A little mild arrogance thrown in there just in terms of talking about, God forbid I get hurt. As if that's just going to totally do a cataclysmic change of events for 85 scholarship players and himself. Not bizarre, but yeah, hopefully that doesn't limit our availability. And
I hope it doesn't. I wouldn't expect it to, but you never know. The whole red shirt thing. It's like, man, I just don't think that's what. I can't envision a scenario where James Blackman's the starting quarterback at Florida State in 2021.
Yeah.
So it really, for Willie's purposes, does not matter a whole lot, man. You need to try to get to a bowl game, and you need to figure out if that kid's going to be your starter in 2019. Because quite frankly and quite obviously, having him for a whole offseason and then having a quarterback competition and then letting the best player play didn't work at all in 2018. So have more of an informed opinion by actual game stuff. It's stuff you see on the field in a game going into 2019. And maybe 12 is just the best guy. Again, maybe Francois would have thrown for 450 against him. I don't know.
I don't think so.
I don't either.
I don't think you think so either. I don't think Willie thinks that either. Again, we've talked about the way things look, the way things feel. That as bad of a loss as that was, for some reason it doesn't feel as hollow of a performance as like the Wake Forest game. That Wake Forest game to me wasn't anything that you build off of. It really wasn't to me. I mean, maybe I'm being,
they obviously didn't build off it at all.
Right? But yeah, again, it's a sort of weird thing there because it feels like, well, how could that kid go out there and play that way and you don't let him kind of finish out the string now? But who knows? I'm sure there'll be some theories floated out in the next few days about why that happened.
Well, and we also don't know if it's true. We haven't seen it either. Like, right. Francois might just be saying one thing. Heck, they could be doing the gamesmanship thing. Maybe Francois was supposed to throw a wink at you guys when he was done talking.
Yeah, he's in on it, right?
And maybe he's doing that, but so they have to prepare for two different quarterbacks. I mean, that's all part of that's all part of the equation. It could be part of the equation. I wouldn't expect Francois just to throw that out there for the coach if he's not going to play, especially because he did practice.
Right.
So he is available. But who knows, man? Willie said everything he said last week and then threw a wink at the end. Mm-hmm. We all kind of knew what that meant, and we all knew Blackman was going to be the starter. Maybe this is just his way of making sure Notre Dame has to prepare for both guys because they're so wildly different.
Wildly different.
Wildly different. You're going to have to practice twice as much to defend Francois or Blackman.
Bothered at all that Willie said that DeAndre was missing time because of his ribs, but then DeAndre told us he was concussed?
Did he say ribs? I never heard ribs.
Yeah, he told us ribs.
After the at the post game?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess. Yeah, sure. Maybe his ribs are a problem too.
Iris said it best. Iris like rib bone connected to the neck bone, connected to the head bone. What about Alec Eberle? Your thoughts on him? Kind of, we asked them, what happened on the penalty? The whole thing that brought back DeAndre or Tamarian. I don't know how to pronounce it. It just the man.
They all pronounce it
dude.
Tamarian. It's weird though because there's no e in there anywhere, or an a, for it to warrant a Tamarian. It's an O.
But we love him, so we respect
hey man,
him.
whatever you want, buddy.
Yeah,
whatever you want.
Much respect. That great touchdown that he had that was called back on an Alec Eberle penalty. None of us saw live. None of us really saw anything, and then they didn't show anything on replay on ESPN. What was visible, though, was that I think it was Derek Kelly or somebody on the interior.
Just getting slammed with the hands to the face.
Just eating a fist. No illegal hands to the face penalty being called, but a lot of people are sort of upset. They think that this is indicative, again, of cultural problem where you have a captain who basically admitted that he just went off the grid and went rogue and hit a kid after the whistle. Or actually, he didn't say it. He said it was up to the whistle, but it was away from the play. He said he laid a guy out and he shouldn't have done it.
Echo of the whistle.
Echo of the whistle, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's not great. It was 20, what were they down, 28 at the time?
I don't even remember. I'm terrible at that. Like, I would always talk about how
they give up so many points, it's hard to keep track.
It is.
It's not like the old days, man. Would that put them up 13-10?
Yeah.
No, I gave them 47. So, yeah, I mean, that's not great. But, I mean, I guess you understand the frustration, but that doesn't you don't have to accept that, I would hope. I would hope there's some sort of punishment for just willy-nilly going out there and getting a personal foul. At the same time, on that play, you do see a Florida State lineman getting slammed backwards with a fist in their face. And nothing.
Nada. Something else I was asked about Wall Bell, I think even Ira might be crafting a column on it either later today or later on in the week. And, somebody asked Walt about it. This whole special teams thing, the fact that they're starting drives inside their own 10-yard line constantly. And Walt points out the fact that, statistics flesh out that, for every 10 yards you have to back up off that 25-yard line, your percentages of scoring just plummet for every 10 yards. And they're constantly doing this. And he was talking about these are all problems, symptoms of why things aren't going their way offensively. They can't run the ball, and they're falling behind early, so they're not able to establish the run. They're getting stuck in bad field position. Like, can you, if you're Walt and you're the offensive play caller, can you go to Lonzo and be like, hey, man, just tell them fair catch every time? I think that'll help us out. Just that right there will make me feel comfortable and make my job easier.
Well, no, because he's not Alonzo Hampton's boss. Alonzo Hampton's boss should tell Alonzo Hampton, hey, man, fair catch every time.
Yeah.
That's not Walt Bell's duty, man. That's the guy that runs the show, and he keeps saying they're not going to do it. Now, he could maybe walk off to the side away from Willie Taggart, could be like, man, do me a favor, please. Please, I can't. You see what we have. I can't keep snapping the ball from my 3-yard line, man. Because I just can't. We can't run the ball. You know that, Alonzo. Keyshawn Helton knows that, Alonzo. So let's work this thing out, man. Help me out, please. Tell every blocker to put their hands behind their back, man, and just set screens. Can you do that? Not even use their hands.
I'm going to hang out with Ham and Stan Jones for a day.
Yeah. Bring Ryan Reed in. Remember Ryan Reed from those defensive teams? Just show these guys how to set screens without using their hands, man. That's not that hard to do because apparently you can't teach them how to block without slamming them in the ground from behind and horse collaring them every time. So, yeah, that's on Willie, man. That's on Willie. It's incredible. I'm sure there's a way to look it up. Not only how bad the special teams are overall, there's ways to grade that, but starting field position compared to your opponent. They must always lose that by 20 to 25 yards per game. And when you're not good to begin with, again, that's just a huge hole to start. How many times do you remember an opponent starting a drive inside their 5 this year or inside their 10?
Golly.
You know what I mean? Florida State always does it. Always. And it's just, again, that's the hidden yards that the predecessor used to talk about. Those hidden yards, well, man, they'd buried them deep underground at Florida State. You ain't finding them. They're in the magma somewhere.
Man. Oh, did you see who was it? The Detroit Lions. They fired their special teams coach.
Did they?
Right in the middle of the season.
All right.
Do you see somebody tweeted at us, gave us a suggestion?
No.
Said that, not being a smart aleck, this person was saying this, tweeted at you and I. Why not hire DJ Durkin?
Oh, no, I did see that. I did not respond to that. That would be because he was a special teams coach at Florida, right? I mean, you get him and Bell back together. I don't think that would be a great look for any program to hire, especially not for a special teams coach. Like, that ain't worth it. The backlash and and also you don't want that psychopath around your kids. Because it wasn't just that the kid died. It was all the stuff in that report that led you to believe, okay, man, that guy's kind of unhinged. So keep him around. Keep him away from teenagers.
Yeah, probably best. Anything else you want to talk about before we step aside and then we come back and I start chapter 1 of my journey up to Notre Dame? By the way, Travis Johnson, the great Travis Johnson, former first-round pick of the Houston Texans, great standout interior defensive lineman for the Noles, shared his story with our own Irish show, Fell. We'll play that probably won't play it tomorrow because we'll do a lot of Renegade Express and stuff. We'll play it on a Friday. We'll leave you some sort of Friday package to make your day go by a little better. But because I'll be traveling. I'll be on a yacht.
Yeah, that's going to be big time, man.
No,
I think when it comes back to the quarterback, the one thing I didn't really stress is that I really don't think it matters this Saturday.
I don't like that. That's
who the quarterback is for this Saturday. I don't think it matters. It just what does it matter? They're not winning.
It's a game.
Sure.
You play to win the game. You
but what I wonder,
to win games.
but you didn't. There was an ellipses coming.
Okay.
You didn't let me finish the thought. But it matters to the kids in the locker room, and I have a suspicion. I don't know. How could I? I'm not friends with any of them. I'm not in their DMs. We're not hanging out. We're not going bowling together. I have a suspicion most of the guys in that locker room like one of the quarterbacks above another. I think the guys on the offense like one of the quarterbacks above another. So, and I don't know what it says to them when their guy, the guy they came in with, a lot of them, especially the two main receivers that he throws to, and Cam Akers. So yeah, I sure did. What does it say to them where he has a game like he has? He's the ultimate teammate. Willie Taggart can't stop praising how good a teammate he is. He's the ultimate teammate. He says all the right things after that game. He doesn't care who starts. He knows his role. I mean, think about that. He said that after throwing for 420 yards and 4 touchdowns. I know my role. I accepted my role.
It's a top 25 team on the road.
Yeah, I accepted my role. I just want us to win. Stats, who starts, it doesn't matter. I just want to win. He's saying all that. The other guy said what he said on Tuesday morning. The guy that threw for 420 yards, that is the ultimate teammate that you love and all the teammates seem to really like a lot and want to go fight with. Fight, metaphorically,
well,
figuratively.
Literally too. A lot of them
maybe,
the toughest kid, right?
You're going to go back to the other guy. What is that going to do to the guys in the locker room? If you're trying to build a culture, you're trying to change things. What does that do to the locker room and to those guys if you go back to Francois?
You're talking about competing. I mean, he's been talking about you got to compete. We want to see guys that want to compete, hungry, these things, and then,
Don't you think that could be a problem though?
Yeah, for sure.
It doesn't really matter what fans think. It doesn't matter what media members think. It matters what the kids in the locker room think. And not that you have to coach by what they want, but everything being equal or kind of equal, which it is with these two guys. I mean, nobody can argue that Francois is worlds better than Blackman or vice versa. They're kind of equal. But you're going to not start the guy that is the ultimate teammate that they all love, that also played better than any quarterback has played here in 3 years for one game. You're going to go back to the other guy. What's that going to do moving forward, not just for the rest of this month, but going into the offseason and into next September? That's something he has to think about, because you keep preaching culture and changing ways and not wanting them to get used to losing, and then you might make a decision that might anger them, upset them, whatever. Flummox them, yeah, great word. So, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. It's not going to matter. It's going to be cold. They're going to lose, but maybe they can win those last 2 games at home.
I still believe. All right, we'll be back after this. I'm going to talk to you about 15 years ago. It was kind of a weird time. It was a good time, though. We'll talk about it after this.
WarChant.com is the ultimate inside source for FSU football and recruiting. And now you can get in on the action for free for an entire month. WarChant.com is offering a risk-free 30-day trial subscription. Get full access to the #1 website covering the Seminoles just by entering the promo code WarChant30. That's WarChant30. Sign up and get in on the world's most active FSU message boards. Receive breaking news, stories from our award-winning staff, plus get exclusive interviews and videos. Just enter the promo code WarChant30. WarChant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source.
All right, so Corey, I thought about doing this as like a 3-part piece, but I think I want to kind of do it organically, but I had to talk to some of my friends and make sure that I didn't leave out pertinent details because I'm sure you're going to ask me all sorts of probing follow-up questions as I unravel all this.
Sure.
But we'll probably do it 2 parts, just kind of the journey up, the game, and then the journey back. The journey back itself was bizarre. But anyhow, so it was 2003. This was my second to last year undergrad doing it at Florida State, and it was a good year. 2003 was a good season. We had Miami came to town. Game day was in town. That was the first time I think both Florida State and Miami had both been in the top 10 since 1993, that game. And it was a nooner. Game day was in town. I remember we had to camp out, or not camp out, but we had to the line for the student ticket queue was you go online and you'd sign up for a number and you'd have to actually wait and then hand in your coupons to get tickets. I remember it was a huge line for the Miami game. I remember our neighbors literally bought a car. I was in Indian Village, which is literally a stone's throw from the stadium. Our neighbors got an old beater car. They painted it green and orange. My buddy, who's my lawyer now, actually took out my 7-iron from my golf bag and went over to take some hits on it. They're letting everybody just beat up on this car, like baseball bats and everything. Broke my 7-iron, and we're back, man. This it's going down.
In the pouring rain.
We were walking to the stadium. We got into a fight, and actually didn't get into a fight. I just sat and watched it this time. But my friends got into a fight with a bunch of Miami fans just walking to the stadium, which was like a 70-yard walk from my backyard to the. It was great. So 2003 was good times. We thought we were doing good. We were 6-0, 7-0 going to the Miami game. We lost it.
Right.
That sucked. But it was a weird time. Everybody kept losing. Florida State was still hanging around, and we were able to see that Notre Dame was on the schedule, and my friends and I was ultimate Seminole. People don't believe it. They think I'm some sort of lousy, miserable guy that just talks crap about his alma mater the whole time. I love my school. I really do, man. And that was a super cool thing to see pop up on the schedule. But the whole thing was like, man, I need to make sure we have tickets. I'm not going up there if I don't have tickets to the game. So as soon as we got tickets, everything kind of fell into place with the.
Can I interrupt you real quick?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so real quick, just because it reminds me of another Notre Dame story. So I was lucky enough to go to the game of the century with my dad.
It's all about you, okay?
Of course.
Sure it's all about Corey.
But I just thought about it. I've never told this story.
For sure.
So
Let's talk about it.
So 1993, he had 4 tickets that game. So we were up there. Obviously, it's the biggest game any of us had ever been to. We went, and that was the first college game day, actually.
It was.
On the road. So we went and saw them in the basketball arena,
Was
like
Tim
in the lobby.
Brando actually on the
No,
desk,
I think it was Fowler. It was Craig James, though,
yes,
and not Herb Street.
Right.
So anyway, afterwards, my dad starts doing this, starts feeling his pockets.
Oh, God.
In his jacket. He's like, oh. I mean, you got to understand, this was the biggest college football game. We can cuss on this thing. I assume you're going to be telling a story that's going to involve a lot worse than a cuss word. So you got to understand it's the biggest college football game Florida State ever played in. One of the biggest. They called it the game of the century, but it was enormous.
It was huge.
And all of a sudden he's I can't find it. I think he's joking.
Corey's touching his chest,
he's joking.
His pockets.
He's like, oh, I hope I left him in the car. Because he's like, I don't have enough cash to buy new ones on me.
Right.
And so yeah, sure enough, we go back and they're literally on the dashboard. Everybody can see them. There's 4 tickets on the dashboard in the car. And luckily, nobody had broken out. But my dad left 4 tickets to the biggest game that anybody ever played. They were selling them for, at that time, $600 a ticket. Yeah. just to get in, and he had, and anyway. So
$600 back then. Wow, that was a lot of money back then.
Oh, yeah, back in 93. Are you kidding?
Wow,
That's
man.
like, with inflation, that's like, I think, $26,000 a ticket. Yeah. Anyway, so that was just my absent-minded dad. It reminded me of that with the tickets, you wanting to go up there and not having tickets.
Reminds me, my brother had 4 tickets to the South Florida State game in 2006 in Tampa. We made it to the gate, and he's like, I lost the tickets. They fell out of my pocket. Or his buddy had the tickets.
Not
fell out of the pocket.
2006? Did they play?
I'm sorry, 2016.
Oh, okay.
2016. So he lost the tickets, and we're at the gate, but we had cell phones and smartphones. My brother was able to pull up an email.
Nice. Good.
So
all right, anyway, back to your story.
So we did, I went and researched everything about how to do things through the student lottery. I mean, you get a very small amount of tickets for an away game, but,
Right.
I was on top of it. So through the student lottery,
This probably was in September, right, or August?
Yeah, September. So $45. I want to say $45. Myself and my roommate, who was actually a trainer for Florida State. He's actually now a trainer for Orlando City Soccer. If you ever want to go to an Orlando City Soccer game, let me know.
I don't, but I appreciate the offer.
So we get tickets, and then slowly my friends start finding out about, like, well, you guys got tickets? Like, well, let's do this. I'm like, all right. So we slowly start assembling a crew. We've got 8 guys. We've got myself, my roommate, and then do I need to give the names of the cast of characters? We've got 8 dudes.
Right.
8 of my great friends.
Are they like you?
No, listen, I'm the crabby guy. They all just kind of offset me, and they just kind of tolerate me. I think I've like grandfathered myself in there.
Are you the alpha of the group though? Like we're not eating there. We're going here.
Well, because they know that I'll get naggy about it, and I'll be they're not like, we don't want to get Aslan angry.
All
He's going to
right,
kick our rear end.
Right, but
yeah, they're just like, all right, we don't want Aslan to be
whatever, man. You're that guy. Like,
yeah,
all right, man.
well,
Fine,
yeah,
whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
Unlike you guys making me go to Applebee's at 11 o'clock in the morning. We're in Raleigh, everybody. I want to start my day off with some breakfast. Corey's like, you want to go to Applebee's? We can watch some games?
No, I said Denny's.
Oh, Denny's is the worst.
Hey, I just said I was looking for breakfast too.
All right, so we got 8 guys going, and 2 of them were brothers. One of them was an actual Delta Tau Delta fraternity member, and he might be more of the alpha guys. He's tough. He gets angry about things.
Right.
Like I get angry, but then I get over things. But he gets angry and he gets scary. So anyhow, his whole thing was like, let's keep it with the core guys. Like, I think we're letting too many people go. It's like, dude, it's 8 of us. We all know each other. It's going to be cool. Well, the day of the trip, my one buddy
Thursday.
Yes,
Thursday.
my buddy Matt. Actually, everybody lived in Tampa except for me and my roommate, and then the 2 brothers. We're in Tallahassee. Everybody else is back in Tampa. And they're like, we're going to get a van. We're going to get a cargo conversion van. We're going to drive up to Tallahassee. We'll pick you guys up, and then we'll head to Notre Dame. I'm like, all right, cool. We had a friend who lived in Tallahassee but was actually back home because of some family stuff. And he was like, dude, I heard you guys are going to Notre Dame. I really want to go. Can I come with you guys? And I'm like, man, James really doesn't want any other guys. He kind of wants to keep it just the core. And I'm the guy that organized all this. Like, I got us a hotel room through like War Chant because you couldn't get hotel rooms weren't available.
Right.
So I had to go on the War Chant board to find us a hotel room, and it was just an absolute dump. But anyhow, he's like, dude, I really want to go, and I'm like, man, I love you too. I'm like, I think you should come up with us too. I'm down. Let's do it. And I call my buddy Matt, who actually got the van. I'm like, dude, can you pick up Stowe? He's like, dude, we're already on the road. He's like, we're driving up US 19 from Palm Harbor, and we're heading up to you guys right now. I tell my buddy that. He's like, dude, I'm in Tarpon Springs. I'm on my way too. He starts racing up in his. He had a Sterling. Have you ever heard of a Sterling? It was like a British car.
Okay.
It was He drives up. He catches up with them in Chiefland.
And honking at them?
Yes, like literally honking at them.
It's like Cannonball Run.
They pull over in a Walmart, and he parks his car at a Walmart in Chiefland. He hops in with them. My buddy James finds out that I let him come up, and he's livid. Like, dude, I don't really know him all that much. Why is he coming with all of us? I'm like, dude, well, most of us know him. He's a cool guy. He's like, whatever, man. Well, one of my buddies wants to come too. Then I'm like, no, none of us know. Who's this buddy you're talking about? We're at my house. We're waiting the bus. I'm screwing this whole story up, which is terrible because it's my story. I'm at my apartment. Everybody, my roommate's there, obviously, and then the one brother's already there. His buddy's there, and then the other brother rolls up, and he is with his fraternity brother that none of us know. We've never met him. His name, we're going to call him Ho-Ho.
Okay.
It's not that far from what his real name is. So he shows up. There's literally 9 of us. We all know each other, and then this one kid who's his fraternity brother. None of us have ever met this kid before. We're like, what? We're all going to be hanging out in a car with this kid for like 12, 15 hours, however long it is, and for a weekend, all of us crammed into one room. And he was like, whatever.
Wait,
man.
y'all got one hotel room?
We got one hotel room,
man.
Corey. We had one hotel room.
College. I got you, but college, man.
I'll sleep in the van. Well, here's the thing. The van wasn't a van. The van was a nursing home bus. Like Google nursing home bus,
Okay,
folks.
all right.
My buddy, who actually was like the most.
Did it have nursing home writing on the side?
It was maroon. We called
okay.
we called it the Red Dragon. It was like maroon garnet colored, and my buddy was actually working full time with his father, who had a company. So he bankrolled everything. He's like, dude, I'll get the van. I'll handle all that sort of stuff. His dad rigged up a TV in the van with an Xbox, and it was crazy. It was 2003. You know, that was a pretty big get. So anyhow, we have like a nursing home van, dude. There's 2 seats per row, and there's like 10 rows,
right.
2 columns. It was great. You could sprawl out. It was fantastic. Also, at this point, it's college, and we're experimenting with some stuff. We also have a large bag of agricultural products with us that can be used.
You're talking about like corn. You can grill you get some corn,
Yeah.
maybe some spinach.
2 ounces of it. And
Oh, boy.
we don't even and at this time, folks, kids, there was no such thing as like a smartphone with GPS on it. There's GPS, but you didn't have a phone with GPS on it.
Did you MapQuest it?
I went to AAA, brother.
Okay.
They trip-ticked it out for me, which is like this notebook, folks. So you keep flipping the page, and it shows you like 50 miles at a time. You just keep flipping the page, and you see where you got to go. And we had a big map. Man, we're playing NCAA football in there, and I got ugly. I'm with like 8 of my best friends and some random guy, and I'm playing NCAA football against my roommate, and he beats me, and I got so mad. Like I threw the controller, like I threw a tantrum on the bus.
I don't think that surprises anyone.
45 minutes into the trip. Anyhow, I guess our first turn was to go up Highway 231 off I-10, like to go through Marianne and then go through Dothan. I'm the navigator. I'm not sober. We miss it. So we missed our first turn. So that just like showed you how this whole entire trip was going to be. Anyhow, so we finally get back on the road, and we drove through the entire night, man. We stopped in Birmingham, then we stopped in Nashville, and then the sun came up outside of Indianapolis. We stopped at some you had to go to a packaging store, because they didn't sell beer and liquor at a convenience store. You had to go to like an actual packaging store. We got there so early, we waited out front until like 7 or 8 in the morning until they opened up the liquor store, and then we stocked
Did y'all
up our
sleep?
liquor. No, I didn't sleep. We had one buddy who didn't smoke.
Oh, okay.
And he drove the whole way up there. We called him Coach. He also got 2 other nicknames on that trip. One of them was the Nose. The other one was Tips. I'll tell you Tips tomorrow on the show. We call him the Nose because anytime somebody farted, like he would smell before it even came out their body.
Oh, man, that's a good gift to have. What a wonderful magical power.
He drives us up there. All right, so we get there, and it's there's the trip was a trip. We drove a whole bunch of young guys getting high. Kids, don't do it. I don't think you should. I know we're legalizing everything.
Sure, yeah, we're certainly not.
I'm not advocating.
We're not
on behalf
condoning
of
it.
Yeah.
But also make sure you have a driver that isn't.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there was no way he could have gotten a contact high.
No, not at all.
No, there's no smoke billowing around in that thing, was there? All right.
No, so we're going good, man. We get there. We check in on Friday morning into this dumpy hotel. It's got 2 beds, and it's an old, dated, rundown hotel, man. Whoever was the guy that I bought it off of War Chant, pestilence and disease onto you and your loved ones for selling that. And it was like $200. It was like an expensive.
Yeah.
Dumpy
was it
hotel.
in South Bend?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
well, you're not like great options in South Bend, especially for a Florida State game.
Right. Yeah, the 2003 game, not quite game of the century.
Right.
So
because they weren't any good.
Yeah. We check in, then we go on to campus. All right, so we go to campus and we're hanging out, and it was beautiful. It really is a beautiful campus. There's photos. Maybe I'll tweet the photos out as a throwback Thursday later on in the week. We take photos next to Touchdown Jesus. We take photos next to the actual stadium. And then we're like, all right, let's go back to the room and get ready for the night or whatever. He stays behind. The weird kid. He's like, yeah.
Who's the weird kid? The kid you didn't know.
The fraternity brother
right.
kid. He's like, yeah, man, I'm actually going to. I think I want to transfer up to Notre Dame. So he went to the office of admissions while we all started walking back to the hotel, and he hung out by himself. And I'm like, okay, that's a cool thing. Anyhow, the whole part of the best part of the story really is the night. So we were asking around when we were on campus, like a couple girls took photos of us. We're like, hey, can you take a photo of all my friends? And we're like, where should we party at tonight? And you should probably go downtown. There's a place called the Library. I'm like, okay. There's a place called
a library in Tallahassee.
There's a library in Tallahassee. God rest its soul. So we're like, all right, we'll check out downtown. And we drove the bus down there. Our one buddy who doesn't smoke drove the bus, but he drinks. But he drove the bus down there. It's now called the Blarney Stone. If you guys want to look it up,
he's not a complete nerd. He drinks.
He's not a teetotaler. He just doesn't like.
No, that's me, man. I never smoked. Never.
Yeah.
I probably smoked 4 times in my life.
Yeah.
And the first 2 times I did it, I got paid to do it.
Really?
Yeah, it was the opening night of the '96 Olympics. It's random, but I mean that's a pretty. When you live in Atlanta, that's a pretty big moment.
How did you get paid for it though?
Because I never did it, and all my friends did it, and they're like, "What if we paid you to do it?" I'm like, "Well, if you pay me to do it, sure." So they ended up, but I'm not going to do it for like $4,
right?
And I think they ended up getting like $70 for it.
Yeah.
And yeah, so there you go. It didn't take with me though. I didn't want to have to keep doing it.
All right, good. Yeah. So
anyway, so you go to the library.
He drinks. He doesn't.
Right, I got you.
So we're there, and we got there super early because we're ready to go. So it's not that full. Look at photos of this place. It's a pretty big bar, and slowly it starts filling up. And I'm drinking bourbon, and that was the night that I figured out that like if I drink whiskey and bourbon, I get even extra. I don't say violent, but I get more ornery. I get more agitated.
I can't even imagine it. You'd be literally like impossible to be around, I think.
We're drinking, and I'm just clapping. I'm like, and everybody's clapping. All my boys, and we start doing the fight song. Like every 5 minutes, I'm just singing the fight song.
Oh God!
And I'm singing the fight song, not just
the
spelling out
words,
Florida
yeah.
State. I know the words of the fight song. Man, you got to fight. I'm doing the whole thing, and just slowly, like we thought everyone was gonna be like, "Oh, that's cool, respect, man. Welcome to South Bend." No, did not go over like that at all.
Well, maybe the one time you do it.
Right.
4 or 5. Well, think about if you were to the library here. And Notre Dame fans kept not Notre Dame fans, just one group of Notre Dame fans kept doing it.
Right.
You might after a while tell them to go shut up.
Right. I don't know if it was actually Halloween or Halloween weekend, but a lot of people were in Halloween costumes.
I remember that. I was there too. I might have even been at that bar with my dad. I was at a bar that was packed.
Yeah.
But I do remember all the Halloween costumes.
Yeah. So my buddy who actually brought the fraternity brother with him was hitting on this girl that was in a Hooters outfit, but she wasn't even that cute at all. But he was just like a dog. He wants to, dog's got to bury his bone or whatever. He's on the road.
Good Lord.
Well, it was 2003. I can talk like it was 2003. I realized we made a lot of progress back in the day.
Okay, great.
All right, so we're at this bar, and it starts picking up with more and more people, and I'm becoming more and more obnoxious because I'm getting more and more drunk. And we're becoming more and more unlikable by the Denzians and even the bartenders there, despite the fact that we're spending all this money. And then people start coming up to us, and they're getting really turned off by, and they're like, shut up, get out of here, losers. We beat you guys in '93.
The year before.
Yeah. So, what was the name of the McDougal?
McDougal was the quarterback in '93, but then they also won in Tallahassee in 2002.
I was trying to think who the quarterback was in 2002.
Oh, it wasn't McDougal. He was '93. I can't remember. It was a guy that wasn't very good, but they had the
Arnaz Battle. I remember Arnaz Battle had a couple years in the NFL, and I think he might have actually thrown a pass in that game for a touchdown, but he was a receiver for that.
Yeah.
Anyhow, so we're there, and then people start, coming up to us and like, what are you doing here at the game? And like, oh, you went to Florida State. It's because you're stupid. Like, what'd you get on your SAT? And everyone's like, ha ha ha. Like, they do a chant like,
again, but I just want to say, is listening to this story from a completely objective
You're
place.
Sympathetic to their?
Yes.
Because I'm in their house.
Not only in their house, but you're being obnoxious. Like, you brought it on yourself. It wasn't like they just attacked you willy-nilly, like just randomly for wearing Florida State stuff.
Right. So
anyway, keep going.
Well, we're singing our fight song, brother.
Well,
they start,
okay.
And then they start insulting us.
Right.
Then they start saying that, you're stupid. What'd you get on your SATs? And then like they start chanting at us that we're stupid or like
right.
Loser.
Again,
or I
don't condone that kind of behavior, but I understand where it came from.
Well, the night's getting even longer, and my buddy is trying to hit on the girl the Hooters outfit, so he goes down to the dance floor and is dancing with her. A couple of my other buddies start drifting off to other parts of the bar, and I'm just kind of like meandering around, walking by myself, and I'm kind of like I'm the baby llama, or the baby like impala, gazelle, like in the safari. And they
right.
notice. And dude, at this point, listen, I'm not a big guy at all. I'm 6 foot, like 180 right now. I was all of like 150 pounds at that time, maybe 160 with all the layers on me.
Carlisle Holiday.
There
was
it is.
The quarterback
Thank
in
you.
2002.
Thank you so much. I would not have been able to go on with the day. So I stumble onto the dance floor, and like people recognize me as being the ringleader of all of my hooligan friends, and they're like, this one kid gets into my face, and he's like, you're a punk, you should get out of here. And I'm like, man, get out of my face. And then I get a beer thrown on me, and then I get 3 beers thrown on me.
Now, is it mugs of beer or is it bottles of beer?
No, it's like plastic
okay, so
cups.
you're not getting hurt.
Right.
They're not throwing objects at you. It's just the liquid.
Right,
okay,
right.
Gotcha.
At least at first. I think people were throwing like cocktails at me. Anyhow, so this kid gets in my face, and he's like, you should get out of here. He's like, you're a punk. He's like, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, man, get out of my face. And then he pushes me. And then as soon as he pushes me, I just swing on the kid. And I punch him right in the face, and then he starts falling back. And by the time he hits the ground, I got like 3 punches on him as he was total.
Like a Roy Jones type.
I knocked the kid out, and I'm not trying to brag about it. I'm saying, I've never done this before in my life. I haven't done it before or since then. But, there was just some sort of magical moment in the air. And then all I remember after that was just getting the living crap kicked out of me. Just 5 guys punching on me. And then
Sorry, I shouldn't laugh when you
No, it happens.
But,
And then it's a whole hailstorm of beer and stuff is getting thrown at me. And then it's like a tornado, and then it just stopped. My buddy, whose father, got the van and rigged everything up for us.
So are you getting kicked too? Were you on the ground?
I was down on one knee. I was getting punched. I was getting knocked on the side. I got hit in the head a few times. I was getting kicked. And then I just feel like my collar get pulled on my shirt, and it all went calm. He grabs me up, punches one dude. Then my buddy who's the teetotaler, if you will, the one that doesn't smoke.
Right.
His father's a Marine, so he's kind of a hard ass himself. Grabs one guy that's literally running up at me and my buddy that was pulling me up. Grabs a kid by the front of his shirt, headbutts him in the face. Another guy comes running, grabs him, headbutts him in the face, and then it was just absolute pandemonium. All of us except the guy who was hitting on the girl in the Hooters outfit are throwing blows, and his frat brother are just
Oh, was he there though?
He was
the frat
there,
brother?
Yeah, doing nothing though.
Well, but he doesn't know y'all well enough to
Right.
get involved. I can understand that, but maybe he shouldn't have been on the trip.
So it's absolute pandemonium, and then it kind of just stops because 5 of them got laid out by the one kid I knocked out is out, and then my buddy who helped pick me up knocked one guy out. There's
headbutting machine.
Yeah, there's literally 5 kids on the ground at this bar, and they kept playing music, but everybody just sort of would walk away from all the bodies, and everyone's looking at us like, these guys are absolute monsters. Get out of our town. And then I'm like, let's get out of here. I'm like, we got to get out of here because I'm not trying to get arrested. One of my friends has a warrant at that time. He didn't show up to a court appearance that he had back in Florida.
All right.
He's actually he's a upstanding citizen now, doing very well in life. So I'm like, we got to go. I'm like, let's go. My buddy's hitting on the girl in the Hooters outfit. He's like, yo, dude, it's cool, man. Nothing's going to happen. Everything's blown over. I'm like, are you stupid? I'm like, we got to get out of here. As I'm walking out, there's 2 police officers walking in, and then everyone's pointing at me. Everybody in the bar is like, it's him. And I'm like, oh, man. The cop grabs me, grabs my buddy. They start pointing at my friend who headbutted everybody, and they bring us outside, and I'm just like, man, we're just here trying to have some fun at a bar, and I'm like, we're just talking some smack, and then, this kid pushes me, and people are throwing beer at me, and I got scared, and I didn't know what to do. I punched the kid in the face, and then my friend's got blood on his shirt, and they're like, what about you? And he's like, he was getting hit by a bunch of people, and I got scared for him, so I had to hit somebody.
I just started headbutting folks.
The 2 kids, the kid that he headbutted, the kid that I punched, the kid that I punched was bleeding from his lip, and he's like, I want to press charges on that kid. I want to press charges. This was ridiculous. The other kid that my buddy headbutted, his face is it looked like just.
Well, you don't expect a headbutt in a bar fight. That's a little used tactic, I think. That's very, very effective.
It looked like he just got shot in the face with a red paintball gun.
Your head's really hard and strong and powerful.
So and I'm like, dude, we are so screwed. And the officers are just like, God, they're like, what the hell? And then here is the absolute exhibit A of white privilege. We're outside, and maybe I'm not the whitest guy around. My buddy's kind of white. The rest of us, everybody else is white. 2 girls who aren't white are fighting at the next bar down the street. 2 girls are fighting viciously, pulling hair, biting, slapping.
You can see it?
You can see it happening. 2 of the officers leave us, and there's only one with us at this point. There was 3 or 4 kept showing up. 2 officers leave us to go break that up. They pepper spray the girls to break them up.
Geez.
They have to pepper spray the girls to break them up. They're so disoriented by all that going on that they're just just get out of here. They're like, get the hell out of here. Don't come back. And we're like, okay. Cool. I'm out. I'm like, we got to go. So we leave, and I think even our friend stops in on their Hooters girl, realizes that it's a fool's errand, and he starts walking. He's like, we start fleeing the scene, if you will. While we're walking back to the car, to the van, the one kid who I punched, I think, is on his cell phone walking behind us, like lurking. I'm like, dude, this kid's probably calling the cavalry. It's going to be like, West Side Story when we get to the parking lot, man. It's going to be the Jets and the Sharks, and it's going to be no holds barred. He's on the phone with the police. He's like, I spoke to you police officers, and they apprehend the kids or letting them walk away. I want a police officer here right now. And we're like, dude, get over it. Like, a couple of guys were still talking crap to the kid. We walk to the bus. We all get on the bus, and we hear sirens, and we're like, go, 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 go. We turn the bus on. The sirens get louder. We're pulling out of this parking lot. It's a fire engine. The fire engine blocks us off.
Oh.
They block off the parking lot, and they're like, get out the car. And then we're like, I'm like, they're not police. And they're like, but they're fired. Like, you have to respect them. I'm like, all right. Police, the firefighters get out of their truck. They come into us. They're like, hey, they're like, were you guys at the library earlier? We're like, no one says anything. He's like, listen, he's just like, you can't do that. You can't come to our town and do that to the people in this town. He's like, make sure, he's like, be on your damn best behavior the rest of the time you're here. And we're like, okay, cool. The firefighter's being a pretty cool guy. And he's like, all right, who's driving the bus? Because, like, when they pulled us over, my buddy who was driving got out and just sat in a regular seat because he wanted to be behind the wheel because he had something to drink. And then the one friend who met them up in the middle of nowhere, Florida, in Chiefland, was like, I can drive. And they gave him, like, a field sobriety test. I didn't know firefighters can do all this.
I didn't either.
They gave him a field sobriety test, and he didn't pass it. And
I also didn't know you could take one, like a what would you even call that? Like a
breathalyzer?
A preemptive breathalyzer test to see if you're able to drive. I guess you can. I've never even heard of that.
Well, they're firefighters.
Like, cops
so
should do that while you're people leaving clubs all the time.
Well,
like,
let's
hey,
not get carried away now.
blow into this, see if you can drive.
Yeah. So
he didn't pass.
So my one buddy's like, I'm not doing it. I can't drive. And the other one's like, I can do it. And they gave him the field sobriety test thing, and he's just like all over the place. They're like, park the thing, get out of here. So they let us park it. So we because we were trying to pull out of this parking lot, but we turned around, we parked it, and we started walking back to the hotel. And it was, I think we mapped it. It was like 2.3 miles, and it was kind of cold.
Yeah.
And we kind of fractured and broke up. I don't know what happened, but like 5 of us went, and there was 10 of us. Like 5 of us went with, like 4 of us went with me, and then 5 went with another group of guys. I think maybe some of the guys wanted to stay out. I'm like, dude, I'm not pushing my luck. I'm like, I'm going back to the hotel. Who knows? This kid could be calling more people anyhow. So we start walking back, and then we're walking the whole time. I don't even know how we found it back there, but we were able to find it without GPS. But we're walking back, and my other friend, the fraternity kid, his brother, his fraternity brother, and like 2 other guys, they end up walking back, and they got lost with us because we kind of broke off because we didn't want to get we went boys in the hood. We're like, you go this way, I'll go that way, so we don't get jumped or something. They end up finding a kid that one of them played Little League soccer with, like back in the day, and in Florida.
Right.
But they found him in Indiana. So they all pile into his car, and he drove them back to the hotel. Meanwhile, the guys that are with me, we're like sludging through all this foot traffic of having to like walk back to the hotel, and too much information here. Like when I get really nervous, like when I think I'm gonna like maybe get beat up or I'm gonna
little.
I really have to go to the bathroom.
Right.
I have to go to the bathroom. And I'm trying to walk, and I'm like, guys, I can't go anymore, man. I'm like, I got to go to the bathroom. But we're walking like up the main thoroughfare there, but there's no convenience stores, or the one that we did see was like closed because it was like 1 a.m. or whatever. I had to go so bad, I actually ended up popping a squat out front of St. Mary's all-girls school across from Notre Dame. That's the bodily fluid thing part of it.
Okay, great, man. This is it's a wonderful representation of Florida State fandom. What are you going to do, man? You're college kids.
I had to do it, man. Grabbed a leaf, did the business.
So to wrap up real quick, your first night in South Bend, you pissed off a bunch of Notre Dame fans.
Correct.
You punched a kid.
Knocked a kid out.
You knocked a kid out.
It was a beautiful time.
And then crapped in front of their all-girls school.
I'm not bragging about it. I think it's crazy that all the fact that we were 21 years old and that we all were able to like rally and go on a trip of that magnitude. I mean, dude, we had this like huge nursing home bus, man. We drove, we made the whole way up there in one day. We didn't stop and get a hotel anywhere. Like we drove the whole night up there. It was crazy. There was a photo of us in the middle of some cornfield in Indiana that we stopped, and everyone's like, munching on a raw piece of corn, and we're just like, yeah, man, we're just hanging out, man. So that was a trip up there. The way back down in the game itself, That's another tale.
Yeah,
another day.
Yeah, all right, man. Well, that's exciting.
Yeah, so I did you guys proud, but I won't do it have to be a law-abiding citizen.
My quick trip to that
please.
Notre Dame game story, and it's literally really quick. I went with my dad and one of his buddies. We went to that bar. We might have been at that bar. I don't know. We were at a bar and met some guys from Pensacola that were big Roy Jones fans. So we struck up a conversation with them. That was fun. They were nice. But I remember getting back. I stayed out a little late with those guys that we had met. My dad left a little earlier. And I got back to the hotel, and it was 2 beds, but my dad and the other guy were taking the 2 beds, and it was just a chainsaw off. Like, it was who could snore the loudest, and they were both winning. Like, it was a tie for first. And I tried to sleep on the carpet, on the floor, and I couldn't. But then I went in the bathroom, thinking, okay, well, I'll be in the bathroom. I can turn the fan on. I'll just sleep in the bathroom. Well, no. The way they make hotels now, when you turn the only way you can turn the fan on, the only way the fan comes on is you turn the light on.
It's one switch for both the light and the fan.
You can't deal with that. Yeah. So I couldn't do that. So I just turned the water on. I put my head I slept under the sink, under the counter, and just had the water running all night, and that's the only way I could sleep. And occasionally every 2 hours I'd wake up by an old man peeing next to me. So we both had experiences that Friday night in South Bend.
I can never do. See, I'm so persnickety when it comes to hotels. I could never sleep on a hotel floor. I think some of the guys actually did sleep in the bus, but we had 2 beds and we had 2 dudes to a bed, so there's 4 of us in the actual beds. And I think somebody slept. I know 2 guys. One person slept in between the 2 beds on the floor. Somebody slept in the corner on the floor.
Yeah, I'd have slept in the van if I could have. I know it would have been cold, but I would rather be by myself and be quiet, have some quiet than 8 dudes around me sleeping. Yeah.
So that was the first night.
All right, man. Well, that's exciting. I can't wait for the sequel.
There was
Part
a game,
2.
and then the way back was even something interesting as well. All right, we'll talk about the Noles again tomorrow and finish up this story. Thanks for listening. It's been Wake Up War Chant.